Alrighty, so we're back at the workbench this week and we're doing something a little simpler than I usually do, at least in terms of like scope and scale. This week I'm painting up Roberta Wells by Warlord Games for their newish but not actually new at all game, Konflikt 47. I'm not going to elaborate on what I mean by that. I'll just let anyone who wants to try and correct me in the comments, so you can go ahead and do that. I've been getting into Konflikt quite a bit recently, along with some mates, and I am genuinely really enjoying it. So I picked up this mini while I was at ChillCon from the Warlord stand a couple of weeks ago, and well, here we are. I have primed with some Citadel Wraithbone, and I am planning on doing some speed paint, base coats, contrast base coats, with a little something extra here and there, so that it doesn't look like I just put speed paint on when it's done, if that makes sense. First up, I'm doing the general cloth material with a mixture of Forest Sprite, which is a speed paint, and some of their speed paint medium. Then once that's dry, we're going into dry brush mode, firstly with this colour. And we're going on quite heavy. Then we do a lighter dry brush with the greatest bottle paint in the world, which is Deck Tan from Vallejo. All of this just on the cloth areas that we treated. Now that we've got ourselves a cute desaturated little marshmallow character, we can start throwing in some colour pops. Picking out a few areas with a pretty Haribo looking shade of green. We'll do the knee pads, we'll do the belts, whatever breaks up this sea of beige we've got. For all the little knick-knack areas like boots and gloves, we can add a little something to these later. Maybe some highlights and the final wash. It should sort out this speed paint look that we've got, basically just to make... Currently, we're just making these problems go away, is essentially what's happening, guys. So my rendition of these Firefly characters, which are like US Marines essentially, I like to have these shoulder pads really nice and garish, so that I am going to put stars and stripes on them later, and I want them to be as white and bright as possible.
This means that throughout the last few years, regulars end up in their same seats due to built familiarity.
Before we move on, I just wanted to give a shout out to my mate, War Daddy Miniatures. Nice lad. He's got a cute cat. Terrible tasting beer, but he is nice. War Daddy Miniatures specialises in a curated eBay store that specifically stocks either ready painted or restored and ready to play Warhammer and bolt action. I've done a couple of projects with Jack in the past, and it's always been fun to dig into his warehouse and find all the weird stuff he's just got knocking around in there. And I believe there's plenty of weird stuff on his eBay as well. He is currently running a 20% off promotion across his whole eBay store with the code WARDADDY20, yeah. Which is pretty dangerous for me, since I picked up the bolt action baton and joined the race recently, so that eBay page is pretty dangerous for me right now. Head to the War Daddy Miniatures store in the link down below, and don't forget to use WARDADDY20 code at checkout for a 20% off. Alright, bye now. Okay, so I am going to make this character Ginger, because my wife is rocking the ginger, and I'm ginger, and ginger is basically the best colour in the universe, so we are just going to go ginger. You might have noticed that generally in my workflows I do one thing, I let it dry, and while it's drying I do something else. That may seem like a choice for camera or whatever, but that is generally how I assume people in the real world actually paint. As you know, as soon as I put a model down to dry, I'm basically bored and I'm wasting time. So I just kind of move on to another section. While that dries, I'm just going to throw some primary red and primary blue on some lines on the shoulder pads or shoulder flags, whatever. Okay, so back to the hair. I'm not an expert at highlighting hair, and that is why most of the miniature armies that I make have helmets on. My general approach, though, is a light base colour, a speed paint over the top for the main tint, the main colour, and then I kind of just mix white or cream into the speed paint that I used for the overall colour tint wash. So in this case, I'm working a touch of white or some cream or some ivory into the ruddy first speed paint, which can, yes, lead to it looking a bit desaturated and a bit pink. So I'll throw in a drop of sometimes red ink if I'm feeling that way. Sometimes I'll drop in a richer brown or even just red paint to bring some saturation back, like really thin down layers on the top of this just to bring some color back. So base, speed paint, white paint into the speed paint, and then with my lightest mixed color, I'll drop a dot of something quite deep, quite rich, and then apply very thinly. That does seem to do it, at least for ginger, but why would you want any other color? That is the question, really. And it's kind of a similar principle with the gloves. We add a little cream or ivory to our hardened leather speed paint, and that kind of seems to just work and do the layering for us. A lot of layering, it's not especially advanced, but it just kind of gets the job done. And on the knuckles and the really tatty edges, I just put a little thin dot of cream or ivory. Okay, plasma coils. There are 1,000,001 ways to do plasma coils, and I choose the easy coward's way out, which is a white base coat, pure white of course, and then some kind of electric blue ink or speed paint just over the top. And then I touch up the raised coils with some thin pure white. Now I know that this is kind of the reverse of how plasma coils are meant to be, but I did say that this was the easy coward's way out. Like, the effect is there, I'm done, man, that's good, that's fine. Okay, so that final top wash that I mentioned earlier on to kind of unify everything, you've probably noticed, even though I've used some speed paints, I haven't really used any kind of washes so far. I am going to go with an enamel wash like I often do. Any kind of enamel wash will do. Brown is better if you're working with greens and browns and gingers. Yeah, just go with brown. So I'm going to mix this stuff 50-50 with white spirit because I don't want it to sit too heavily in the recesses, and I don't want it to leave too much texture when I take it off later. This brown wash really is just to kind of unify a lot of the nonsense colours that I've got going on. Once it is dried, I take a makeup sponge and I damp it with a bit of white spirit and gently rub the enamel wash from the raised areas of the model. It does still leave a slight tint of the brown wash, and you'll notice it in the pure white areas, but that is kind of the idea. and where the brush can't reach, you will notice that everything remains just a nicely subtly darker shade. And of course, a mini isn't finished until the base is done. So, quick and dirty. Yeah, easy peasy. If you want to see me do a load of scatter terrain in this exact same way, but I take more time over it and explain every individual step, you can find that video somewhere on the screen right now, and I will pop a link to the video at the end of this video. But basically, yeah, a little bit of scale model barbed wire will do the job. Blast it with some grass tufts, and that will be a nice base. If you think you've not got enough grass tufts on there, do some grass tufts. Make sure they're nice and random looking. Clump them together, spread them apart. All those, all those things that I said that are just opposites. Do that. Yeah, man, I very much enjoyed this. This was nice. This isn't what I usually do. Painting a single model or designing a scheme isn't really my forte. But if you found it useful, either now or in the future, hello future you, do let me know in the comments. And of course, if you've tried Konflikt 47, let me know in the comments what you thought of it. And thank you to my wonderful Patreon community for their support, and thank you for watching. I will be back next time to talk about our upcoming miniatures game Petrichor, in kind of like a vloggy style thing, I think. Yeah. So cheers. I'm out of here.